Tonight, the water is still rising in parts of the Midwest. But while the waters recede in Cedar Rapids, tempers are boiling over.
It's another day. I'm tired of this.
I'm Harry Smith. Also tonight, heart disease and heart attacks. Tim Russert's tragic death has many wondering what they can do to prevent it. Plus, a disturbing trend. Premature births are way up in the United States. We'll tell you why. And these kids don't have to worry about paying for college. You'll love meeting the man who's picking up the tab.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is off tonight, and we begin once again with the disaster that's unfolding in the Midwest. The misery from more than a week of flooding will be felt for a long time. Tonight, at least 40,000 people remain evacuated. The floodwaters have caused at least $2 billion in property damage. And Iowa's Farm Bureau reported today up to 20% of its corn and soybean fields are underwater. We begin tonight in Cedar Rapids, where the water has slowly begun to recede. Cynthia Bowers is there. Good evening, Cynthia.
Good evening, Harry. You know, just a few days ago, the water here would have been well over my head. As you can see, it's largely gone behind me. And folks in Cedar Rapids are desperate to start putting the flood of 08 behind them, and they are furious. They're being told not yet.
We got to have the Pope bless it, too, before we go in?
Thousands of homeowners here are so desperate to see if they have anything left.
It's my property. I own it. Why can't I go in and inspect it?
Police had to arrest this man at gunpoint after he tried to run their roadblock and get home. Another passed out while waiting in the heat, and the rest found out that even though the water's gone down, the barricades have not.
I want to go into my house. I don't know if half of my stuff's there.
I feel like it's bad, but I'm so happy. I'm sorry.
A lucky few did manage to get into flood-ravaged neighborhoods late yesterday, but authorities now say it's too dangerous, and they put the streets back on lockdown.
The inspection crew says you can get in there, then they'll let you in.
Being held back doesn't hold water with folks like Joan Harwood, whose entire future is tied up in her house.
But you get everybody's hopes up. Oh, well, we're going to let you in your house, and then they just pull the rug out from underneath you again.
Many of the estimated 36,000 homes lost statewide were here in Cedar Rapids, where 1,300 city blocks were submerged, with estimates of damage at more than $1 billion. One of those homes was 8-year-old Carrington Moore's.
Did you lose some of your toys?
I lost my toys, my clothes, my TV, everything.
His mom, Carla, is trying to stay brave for her 4 sons, but fears they have nothing left.
You lost your job, too.
I called the job and said, we don't know if we're going to have a job or not. So it's like, it's hard. You got kids to raise, and you got bills to pay. It's like, okay, what next?
What's next? Now, that is a question thousands of people in Cedar Rapids are asking tonight, with billions of dollars and months of work still ahead of them. Harry.
Cynthia Bowers with us. Thanks so much. Tonight, the floodwaters continue their relentless push south, and towns in southern Iowa are getting hit hard. Hari Srinivasan is in Oakville. Hari?
Good evening, Harry. The rapids behind me are soybean and corn fields. This is part of a levee breach here that has now taken about a 16,000-acre swath of land and flooded it on the river's new path toward the Mississippi. All along the Iowa River, there are tales of misery. So this just used to be a yard.
This is a yard, yes.
Poppy Crum needs a rowboat now to get to her childhood home in Iowa City.
Yeah. You watch things from your childhood just sort of disintegrate in the water. By the time I got in here, it was already afoot.
The Iowa River Trail is now the Iowa River here. Around town, 16 buildings from the University of Iowa are waterlogged. In the last 8 days, floods have swallowed more than half of Wisconsin, 1/3 of both Indiana and Iowa. 7 have died and nearly 40,000 are flooded out of their homes. In Iowa alone, the nation's top corn producer, more than 3 million acres of farmland have been destroyed. In Columbus Junction, where the Iowa and Cedar Rivers meet, the combined force of the rivers submerged the only gas station and grocery store for miles.
Sad to see this happen when we spent all of our time doing all the sandbagging and all the sand to see it break.
It's a lot of pain because I know what these folks are going through.
The sheriff of Louisa County is stuck in one half of his own territory because a river has swallowed parts of 4 towns in a row, and there is no way to cross.
When the flood of '93 was over, I was thrilled because that was a 100-year flood. I'd never have to live through it again.
Where I'm standing, the water is supposed to creep up a little more in the next couple of days, but authorities are more concerned about towns further down on the Mississippi because that is where all this water will empty. Harry?
Harry, that is one remarkable picture. Thanks so much. Farther downriver, they're preparing for the worst when the floodwaters come their way. And the Mississippi is expected to crest in Keokuk, Iowa on Wednesday, a foot higher than it's ever been. On Thursday, Quincy, Illinois could also see a record when the river crests there. Today, National Guard troops joined sandbagging efforts. On Friday, near record levels are expected in St. Louis. Now on to a story that stunned so many of us, the sudden death of NBC's Tim Russert. A private funeral will be held Wednesday in Washington. His death from coronary heart disease came just weeks after he had passed a stress test. It happened without warning, but that's not uncommon. About 850 Americans each day die from this condition, many without even making it to the emergency room. That comes to over 300,000 a year. More tonight from Dr. John LaPook.
It's the question of the day. How can somebody pass a stress test and then, weeks later, drop dead of a heart attack?
I would say 140 over 70.
During a stress test, patients exercise to raise their heart rate. They flunk when a clogged artery prevents adequate blood flow from reaching the heart muscle. But it takes a large blockage to do that.
But the risk of a heart attack actually relates to smaller blockages that don't limit the blood flow, but that are at a risk for breaking open and having a blood clot suddenly block off the artery, as was the case here for Tim Russert.
In Russert's case, cholesterol built up in the lining of his arteries. Not enough to affect the stress test, but enough to leave a fatty deposit that eventually burst, causing a clot that blocked the artery. Clearly, a normal stress test doesn't mean you won't have a heart attack. So why do it at all?
Well, stress tests are important to look at whether someone has significant limitations in the blood flow to the heart. If you do, then that would be a reason that you would need angioplasty, stenting, or bypass surgery.
But it's not all about finding blockages after they've occurred. It's about preventing them from occurring in the first place. That's why it's key to lower risk factors, such as high cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes, smoking, lack of exercise, and obesity.
These risk factors are real. It's not just something that we talk about, but controlling them can also help prevent heart attacks.
And prevent sudden death.
I bet cardiologists' phones across the country ringing off the wall today. Is there another test that patients should be asking about besides the stress test?
Harry, there are tests that can detect tiny blockages in the arteries of the heart and also calcium deposition. But for people who have known coronary artery disease, like Tim Russert, who are already being aggressively treated with medication and an attempt at risk factor reduction, which he was, I spoke to his doctor today, then probably these type of tests are not going to change the treatment. However, where they may make a difference is in somebody who doesn't know they have heart disease. So, of course, as always, people should check with their doctor to see what test is appropriate for them.
Dr. John LaPook, thanks so much. For more on how to prevent heart attacks, go to our partner in health coverage, webmd.com, and search heart disease. Now to the strange case of hedge fund swindler Samuel Israel. Last week it appeared he might have killed himself rather than serve a long stretch in prison. But tonight federal authorities think he staged the whole thing, and they've launched a global manhunt. Here's Chief Investigative Correspondent Armin Katayan.
CBS News has learned federal authorities no longer consider Israel a suicide victim, but a fugitive. This a week after his car was found abandoned on this bridge high atop New York's Hudson River, with the message, "Suicide is painless," written in dust on the hood. Federal authorities tell CBS News they ruled out suicide in part because no witnesses in the immediate area saw anyone jump into the water. U.S. Marshals have issued this wanted poster stating Israel should be considered armed and dangerous. One federal official telling CBS News there is reason to believe he may be potentially prone to erratic or violent behavior. The 48-year-old trader fueled a high life by bilking investors out of $450 million through the Bayou Fund he founded, the biggest hedge fund fraud in history. Israel was eventually sentenced to 20 years in order to pay $300 million in restitution.
This seems to be the last chapter in the fraud that went on for 6 years, and now he seems to be defrauding the federal government.
Efforts to locate Israel through credit cards or other means have come up empty. He remains on the run, living yet another lie. Armin Katayan, CBS News, New York.
History tonight in California as it becomes the biggest state to make same-sex marriage legal. Preparations are underway around the state to accommodate couples eager to tie the knot. A new CBS News poll, meantime, shows 30% of Americans believe same-sex couples should be allowed to marry. 28% support civil unions, but 36% are opposed to any legal recognition. There's much more CBS News ahead, including this Afghanistan warlord with a warning for the U.S. and its allies. It's a CBS News exclusive. But next, born too soon. What's causing the alarming trend of premature births in this country, and what can be done about it?